And what's up, my good people? Welcome to the Mango Grove. My name is Krisha, and this is today's Bitcoin and some random other altcoins analysis video. Now, in yesterday's comment section, two people had mentioned ZIL and BNB. Now, I looked at those two charts, and I figured, they were decent charts to be dissecting. So we will be going over Zilliqa USDT. I'm going to try and keep this one as short as possible. I mean, Bitcoin there's not much to talk about. Things are still just hovering. We're still in that consolidation, that symmetrical triangle consolidation, getting into that daily cloud, right? We're still oscillating within those cloud ranges. Now, yesterday I had brought up an observation that I have made in my years of trading, Bitcoin's chart. Now, the observation was this: every time we oscillate within that symmetrical triangle, and the closer we get to the apex, okay? Now, this right here signifies the apex. The closer we get to that apex, I noticed that price does something weird, okay? It usually has a push to the upside, okay? And then swiftly afterwards, it'll have another push to the downside. Now, I had mentioned this yesterday. However, there was one point of this that I did not mention, and that was when this happens, okay, it essentially broadens the range for price action. All right, so that entire range, that squeeze, sort of unsqueezes itself, if you know what I mean. So I noticed that there have been instances in the past where it happens, and one of the instances was this. If I just zoom out of the chart, I want to bring things into perspective for you guys. So when I say things, you know exactly, what kind of price action I'm referring to. Now, this was one instance when there was a squeeze. Price broke out of a symmetrical triangle. People thought it was a symmetrical triangle. It was on a lot of people's radars, but we broke out and we broke swiftly back into the triangle and we hovered there. And when this happens, guys, I look at that triangle as being invalidated. Okay, so just to put things like right now on my chart is like, how would you look at that as a symmetrical triangle? But it's all like when you sort of rewind, when you're in that moment, okay, I'm going to rewind and show you exactly what people back then were looking at. Now, if I just rewind here, all right, and if you notice how this sort of played out here, I'm going to reduce the speed. I don't want it playing that fast. Okay, there we go. So now when you look at a structure like this, you're expecting a symmetrical triangle play. Now, as pattern trader, that's essentially what I was looking at. And if you even put on the volume nodes, okay, you have the volume that supports that of a symmetrical triangle. Now, when I play this, watch what happens. Okay, we get rejected, all right, and boom. Now, when you see something like that, okay, now you're looking at that as a break, right? And fine, we did have volume. However, that volume push wasn't much, but it was, enough to kind of dwarf the other volume nodes that preceded it, right? So now you look at that as a break, but now watch what happens right after, okay? The next daily candle, we have something like this. We break back down. Now, this essentially has it's widened that range, that price range for Bitcoin, okay? And now things just oscillate within this range. We break back out, break back in, and then nothing is too convincing. That's why when I see price action like this, I usually look at the entire pattern as getting invalidated, at which point I'm looking for it to morph into something else. However, I always look for that structure to be maintained, and that's why I always, put more emphasis on the structure of price action. And now, if you notice what happens here, I'm going to just, make this a little faster so price moves faster. This ends up morphing into a ascending triangle on those high time frames. And then we have that official break. And look at the volume that came in here, right? So these are little things to watch out for. Now, of course, you can never really know. It comes with experience, okay? It really depends on how much experience you have trading a specific chart. Now, this is how Bitcoin, I notice, likes to move. Some other charts will have some other various signatures on it. Okay, so don't beat yourself up if you don't see this coming. These kind of things, it comes with experience, but it's about knowing how to handle it if it does, show up on the chart. Now, when I mentioned this move yesterday, I also told the seed members that, hey guys, go and watch the institutional order flow module, okay? Because you'll know exactly how to handle your stop losses when you see price action like this. All right, that is what is going to keep you safe along with the risk management system, so use it well. So yeah, this was a thing that I forgot to mention in my analysis video from yesterday, right, of what happens to price after we see a move like this. So if we see something similar happen this time around where price, has a break to the upside or the downside, okay, either or, and it breaks back into the range, I'll be looking as this symmetrical triangle as getting invalidated. All right, at which point I do believe that the price range will be widened. All right. However, the one thing I will always have my eyes on, okay, and this is something, that's why I keep talking about this, I keep emphasizing the same point. Look at the structure. The structure is giving you the story there. Now we have a series of higher lows over here, right? And as soon as Bitcoin starts taking out these guys here, these wick lows right here, I will be looking at that as a confirmation on a bearish move. Okay, at which point I do believe that the bears will be in control. Okay, and where am I getting this from? If we just get onto the weekly time frame, okay, and we just go ahead, put on our weekly cloud, you'll notice that those wick lows that I had marked actually marks the weekly low that we put in here. Okay, this was on the week of 7th of September and 31st of August. Now the lowest price point here was 9,825. As soon as price starts living underneath this, I will be looking for short range trades. Okay, but I'm willing to, honestly guys, and this is something I'd mentioned yesterday, right? I'm willing to give up the tops and the bottoms only to catch the meat. So I'm willing to just, wait on that confirmation. If I lose a part of the trade, no problem, whatever, as long as I have the confirmation and I can, approach it with more confidence. Okay, now this is what's going on Bitcoin's weekly time frame. I currently am being patient, okay, as a range trader to look for any sort of range to the upside or the downside. I'm going to be doing nothing here until we actually see a solid break by either the bulls or the bears. Now getting onto those lower time frames, 4-hour time frame, is there any, signs here, any sort of bullish, bearish signs? Who's in control? Who's in control? I'll tell you what I like about this chart right now on the 4-hour time frame at least. I feel like, the fact that Bitcoin did not get up to this trend line. And I want you to see how well it's been respecting the trend line here. Even when we put in this low here, price went all the way back up to the upper diagonal, okay, marking that trend line, the upper trend line, which also marks the weekly lower high structure. I want you to notice how we got rejected off of that. We came back down, grazed that diagonal at the bottom, okay, marking the higher low structure, and bounced right off of it. Now, what's really cool over here is that now this is showing me that the bulls may have a bit of conviction here, okay, albeit not too strong, but I feel like it's still it's there. The fact that price could not get all the way down to the diagonal for an official test. This is telling me that the bulls are showing a bit more conviction here. They're willing to step in earlier. However, I still advise utmost prudence when playing the lower time frames because I feel like it's such a chopping block right now. Like it's just chopping everyone out. And the closer we get to the apex, the narrower that range gets. So then it really begs the question, what are you playing, right? What is the risk and reward that you're playing here? So be smart about your ranges, be smart about your trades, and understand how much you stand to win. Okay, how much you stand to win on each trade and how much you stand to lose. Does the reward justify the risk that I put on the table? Now, of course, that is an attribute of my personal trade planning. It does not necessarily have to be yours, but I usually like including that in addition to, really setting time horizons on each of my trade. Okay, that way I understand, okay, how long should I be waiting on this trade to pan out? What time frame should I be looking at? Okay, so now these are all very critical questions that you should be asking yourself when you are planning your trade. Now, this is what Bitcoin is doing. I feel like it's still crunching there. It's still squeezing there. We got to wait here. Okay, what I'll be looking for, at least on the more immediate time frames, if Bitcoin can start living over 10,666, we could have a chance to go back up and test the diagonal. Now, depending on what we do there, okay, that is really going to dictate where price moves. Now, another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that because of how, if you get onto the daily time frame, it's been a very long consolidation. Now, in whichever direction price decides to break, whether it's to the upside or the downside, guys, I'm going to be looking for a volume push. I want to see a bit of conviction come in on either side. I don't want to see things break. Okay, so basically things break here and say it breaks down, okay, break, and there is no volume to support it. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see a nice volume push one of the sides essentially showing conviction in that break. Okay, another thing I want you to notice is that this diagonal, I think I mentioned this earlier, is the 21 EMA. That's why, because the 21 EMA is sitting right above us, I'm looking at rather sort of give more precedence to these wick closes right here and these candle body closes right here. Okay, I believe this is sitting underneath the 21 EMA right now, but losing these guys right here will give me more conviction in taking the short side of the trade. All right, now this is what Bitcoin USD is doing. Let's get on to ZIL very, very quickly and see what ZIL is up to. Now, I did do a sort of a preliminary analysis on Zilliqa just to, figure out whether it was worth doing an analysis on. So I'm going to get onto the weekly time frame. And here's what I'm noticing. Now, all the pink lines that I have on my chart right now are all weekly horizontals. Okay, and I can see that ZIL really likes playing the ranges here. This is ZIL USDT, so heads up on that. What I'm noticing is that we broke, that last weekly candle. We actually broke a resistance to the upside. Now, this resistance was sitting at around 0.017 cents, give or take, okay? We took that to the upside. We closed well over it. Okay, we took out the 21 EMA as well as the Tenkin, and right now we've come back down to give it an official test. If the next weekly candle closes underneath this level, price is likely to come all the way back down to the bottom of the range here, sitting at 0.015 cents. Okay, however, if we close over, I will be looking for another move up. Possibly the first point to test is going to be that Tenkin there sitting at around 0.02 cents, give or take. Okay, if we start breaking that to the upside, then I will be looking for price to test, these highs here, okay, and potentially go all the way up here to 0.024 cents. All right, so the weekly is not looking too bad, but I feel like the weekly, it's all going to be cascading effects. I feel like the lower time frames may dictate where this goes. Now, while the weekly is looking decent, we are sitting on that weekly support. I'll tell you what I'm looking at on those lower time frames. If I get onto the daily time frame, I'm noticing that the cloud is red. Okay, price is underneath the cloud right now. We're living underneath the cloud. We have been maintaining that cloud support and resistance. As things stand right now, we're hovering underneath it. Okay, we're holding the 21 EMA, but like I said, I want to see a bit more conviction here. I want to see the bulls push it up if this has to maintain that uptrend. I'm also going to go ahead and put on that 10 SMA. And you'll notice that we are currently sandwiched between the 10 and the 21 EMA. But here's what I'll be looking for, leading up to that next weekly close. As soon as ZIL USDT starts closing additional candles underneath that 21 EMA, okay, I will be looking for continuation to the downside. I feel like it's going to end up playing a range. All right, now the range is pretty much going to be from the 21 EMA here all the way to the Tenkin. That is going to be the range. Okay, I'm not going to sort of give you the numbers to the decimal point, the weekly zones that I have in my chart, but you can sort of get a gauge on the zones just by looking at the 21 on the daily, going all the way down to the Tenkin. If we start living underneath the Tenkin, okay, leading into the next weekly close, I will be looking for this weekly candle to close underneath the resistance that it took out. Okay, so underneath this region right here at 0.017 cents. Okay, the region that we just went over on the weekly time frame, we close underneath it. I'll be expecting further continuation to the downside, possibly coming all the way down to 0.015 cents. Now there's another potential bearish pattern, okay, that I see on this chart. We'll just quickly go over it. Now I'm saying potential because we have not seen a break yet. Okay, this pattern has not broken to the downside, so it only really becomes bearish after the break. Before the break, it is just price oscillating within a range. So this is the neckline right here. I'm just going to go ahead and draw that out. I do believe that it has the right volume nodes to support it. Okay, so we have beautiful a head and shoulders, a bearish head and shoulders top. Okay. This is the left-hand side shoulder. This is the head right here. This is the right-hand side shoulder. The overall neckline is telling me that we may want to sort of make another push to the upside. Maybe, put in a more extended right-hand side shoulder before this actually sees a conclusion. But what I'll be expecting for this entire bearish pattern to be negated is if price starts breaking above this region right here. Okay, now this is sitting at around that 2-cent region. As soon as price starts living over 2 cents, I'll be looking at this as being negated, at which point I'll be looking for it to sort of morph into something else. But right now, I do believe that this has the right volume nodes, and it could very well break to the downside. And, the impetus of this pattern actually breaking to the downside will be ZIL USDT settling inside that 4-hour cloud. We start breaking that to the downside, I'll be looking for a volume push as well. Okay. we break into the cloud and we hover in there, I'll be looking at it as a break of the overall pattern. Okay, at which point let's go ahead and calculate the measured move. I usually take it from the wicks because even when I draw in the neckline, I am accounting for the wicks. So say we break somewhere here. Okay, I'm going to get onto the daily. That would take ZIL USDT all the way down to 0.013 cents, essentially testing these wick lows right here. Okay, now that's personally what I will be looking for. It's going to be an if this then that situation. The more important thing on this chart here right now, guys, is that we are currently sitting on weekly support. Okay, now this is all I have for you for Bitcoin as well as ZIL. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. With this, trade safely, trade stress-free, trade the mango way, trade the easy way, guys. Ciao.